When the prophet speaks in Isaiah 43, he begins with a declaration that is both intimate and powerful. Fear not, for I have redeemed you, I have called you by name, you are mine. These words are not just ancient promises recorded on a page. They are living truth meant to echo into every single morning of your life. When you rise with uncertainty, when you rise with the heaviness of yesterday's burdens, these words are a reminder of who you are and whose you are. Notice how the passage begins with two words that many of us desperately need to hear at the start of the day. Fear not. Fear is often the very first visitor that enters your morning. Before you step out of bed, your mind may already be racing with anxious thoughts, fear about your finances, fear about your health, fear about your relationships, fear about the future. Fear often disguises itself as preparation, but in reality, it paralyzes your ability to move forward with clarity and faith. That is why God interrupts your morning thoughts with a command. Do not fear. This is not a suggestion or an option. It is a declaration meant to replace the lies of worry with the truth of His redemption. The foundation of this command is redemption. God says, I have redeemed you. To redeem means to buy back, to restore value, to rescue from loss or captivity. That means your worth is not determined by what you lost yesterday, by the mistakes you made, or by the opinions of others. You are already redeemed. When you wake up in the morning, you may feel the weight of guilt or shame trying to convince you that you are disqualified. But God says otherwise. His redemption is not partial, it is complete. Redemption means He has already settled the debt of your past, and He has already secured your tomorrow. Then comes the most personal part of the passage. I have called you by name. Think about this for a moment. The Creator of heaven and earth, the one who spoke galaxies into existence, calls you by name. This is not a general statement. This is not a vague reminder. It is deeply personal. God does not just see humanity as a whole, He sees you. He calls you individually with all your unique gifts, struggles, and dreams. Every morning when you rise, before the world calls you by your mistakes, your titles, or your failures, God calls you by your true identity. He calls you loved. He calls you chosen. He calls you His child. And then He seals the promise with 4 words that carry eternal weight. You are mine. Belonging is one of the deepest human needs. People search for belonging in relationships, careers, achievements, and even possessions. But all of these are temporary and fragile. True belonging can only be found in the one who created you. When God says, you are mine, He is not just claiming ownership, He is declaring covenant. He is assuring you that you are under His covering, His protection, and His provision. In a world where rejection is common and abandonment is real, this promise becomes the anchor for your soul every single morning. The passage does not stop with identity. It extends into experience. God continues, when you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and when you pass through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flame shall not consume you. This is a picture of life's inevitable challenges. Notice again that it says when and not if. Challenges are not a possibility. They are a certainty. Waters will rise, fires will come, storms will rage. But the promise is not the absence of trouble. The promise is the presence of God in the midst of trouble. This changes the way you start your morning. Instead of dreading the unknown, you enter the day with confidence, because no matter what waters you face, you are not alone. No matter what fire burns around you, you will not be consumed. The presence of God transforms fear into courage and uncertainty into trust. The morning becomes less about predicting outcomes and more about resting in His promise. Think about the imagery here. Waters represent situations that try to overwhelm you. Fires represent trials that try to destroy you. Yet God says, neither has the final authority over your life. You may feel like you are standing in deep waters, but they will not drown you. You may feel like you are surrounded by flames, but they will not consume you. Why? Because you are redeemed, because you are called, because you are His. This is why beginning your morning with Isaiah 43 is so critical. It reshapes your perspective before you even face the demands of the day. Instead of letting fear dictate your decisions, you let redemption define your identity. Instead of letting shame steal your joy, you let His presence give you confidence. Instead of letting uncertainty cripple your steps, you remember that you belong to the one who walks with you through every storm and every fire. In Isaiah 4:305, God speaks words that every human heart longs to hear. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. This simple promise carries a weight greater than wealth, success, or human approval. It is the assurance that wherever you go, whatever you face, and however uncertain life becomes, you are never abandoned. Presence is one of the most powerful realities of life. We often measure strength by resources, but in the kingdom of God, strength is measured by presence, the presence of the one who walks beside you. Fear has a way of exaggerating your solitude. When you face challenges, fear whispers, you are alone. No one understands. No one will help you. That is the voice that drains courage and magnifies problems. But into that silence, God's word enters like a light piercing through darkness. I am with you. He does not simply send you encouragement. He gives you Himself. He does not offer only words of comfort. He offers His own abiding presence. That is what transforms an ordinary morning into a day filled with supernatural confidence. Presence matters more than information. You can know the facts about your situation, but if you do not have the right presence in your life, fear will still dominate. A child may not understand how the road works, how danger operates, or how protection functions. But when the child holds the hand of a loving parent, there is no fear. It is not the absence of danger that brings peace. It is the assurance of presence. In the same way, when you rise in the morning, God's words remind you that you are holding the hand of the one who holds eternity. Consider how God frames His promise. He does not say, do not be afraid because there will be no problems. He does not say, do not be afraid because the day will go exactly as you planned. He does not say, do not be afraid because your strength is enough. Instead, He says, do not be afraid, for I am with you. The difference is profound. If peace was based on circumstances, it would always be temporary. But when peace is based on His presence, it becomes permanent. Circumstances change, but God's presence does not. This is why the morning becomes the most crucial moment of your day. How you begin determines how you carry yourself through every challenge. If you start by recognizing His presence, you enter the day with assurance. You walk into meetings differently. You approach struggles differently. You respond to uncertainty differently. Why? Because you know that you are not walking into them alone. Think about the imagery of with you. The phrase suggests companionship, partnership, and constant nearness. To be with someone means to share space, to share moments, and to share burdens. When God says He is with you, it means He is not distant, watching from afar. He is not observing your life like a spectator. He is involved in every step you take. He shares your tears. He strengthens your weaknesses. He carries your burdens, and He celebrates your victories. This is why in the scriptures we often see God reminding his people of his presence at the most critical turning points. To Moses, trembling before the calling to lead Israel, God said, "I will be with you." To Joshua, facing the daunting task of crossing into the promised land, God said, "As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you." To the disciples, standing at the edge of a new mission, Jesus said, "I am with you always, to the very end of the age." The pattern is consistent. Whenever God sends you into a challenge, he sends his presence as the guarantee of success. This is also why prayer in the morning is not a ritual, it is recognition. It is a moment where you acknowledge his presence before the noise of the world tries to convince you otherwise. It is in prayer that you remind yourself, I do not enter this day alone. I do not face this situation isolated. I am accompanied by the presence of the Almighty. That awareness shifts your mindset from survival to victory, from anxiety to confidence. And notice how the command and the promise are tied together. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Fear loses its authority, not because the threat disappears, but because presence changes perspective. Fire may still burn, waters may still rise, but the one walking with you ensures they will not overwhelm you. You are not called to live in denial of problems. You are called to live in the confidence of presence. Every morning, the temptation is to measure your capacity by your own strength. You may wake up and immediately think of what you lack. Not enough time, not enough money, not enough support. But Isaiah 43:5 shifts your focus. It reminds you that the equation of your life is not based solely on you. It is you plus the abiding presence of God. And when he is with you, lack does not have the final say, fear does not have the last word, and failure does not have the ultimate authority. This is why you must begin the day by declaring his presence over your life. Before you leave your room, before you check your phone, before you review your schedule, remind yourself, he is with me. In that truth, courage is born. In that truth, strength is renewed. In that truth, fear is silenced. Because no matter what the day brings, his promise remains the same. Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Isaiah 4:3 Zandanada 8-19 says, forget the former things, do not dwell on the past. See, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs up, do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wasteland. These verses reveal the power of alignment, aligning your heart, your mind, and your spirit with God's perspective at the start of the day. Morning prayer is not just about reciting words. It is about resetting your focus, shifting your gaze, and preparing yourself to see what God is doing in the present moment. One of the greatest obstacles to walking in purpose is the inability to let go of the past. The scripture begins with an urgent instruction. Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the past. How many mornings are stolen by yesterday's memories? People wake up with replayed arguments, old mistakes, lingering regrets, and fears that belong to a season long gone. The human mind has a tendency to dwell on what was, but prayer at the start of the day breaks that cycle. Prayer is the declaration that yesterday is over, and today is a fresh opportunity to walk in God's design. When you pray in the morning, you are not ignoring your past. You are refusing to let it control your present. God is not saying your past never happened. He is saying it does not define what is happening now. Morning prayer becomes the spiritual act of releasing yesterday's failures, disappointments, and even successes so that you can step into today's assignment with clarity. Many people lie stuck because they are trying to carry yesterday into today. But you cannot perceive a new thing while clinging to the old. That is why the next phrase is so powerful. See, I am doing a new thing. Prayer trains your eyes to perceive what your natural sight might miss. You can wake up, look at your life, and see only limitations. You can look at your circumstances and see only what is wrong. But when you align through prayer, you begin to see what God is birthing. Alignment is about perception, shifting your focus from problems to possibilities, from obstacles to opportunities, from despair to hope. God says, do you not perceive it? That means the new thing is already there, but without alignment, you may miss it. Prayer in the morning positions you to notice God's hand at work in the details of your day. Without prayer, you may see wilderness. With prayer, you see the way He is making through it. Without prayer, you may see wasteland. With prayer, you see the streams He is causing to flow. Alignment does not deny reality. It reveals God's reality within your reality. And that is the essence of Isaiah 43:1-9. It calls you to look again, to see differently, to recognize that God is already at work creating paths where none existed, and refreshing your dry places with His presence. The reason morning is so significant is because it sets the tone. If you wake up and align with fear, you carry fear into the day. If you wake up and align with anxiety, anxiety governs your decisions. But if you wake up and align with God's promise, you carry peace, confidence, and clarity into every situation. Alignment is not automatic, it is intentional. That is why prayer in the morning is non-negotiable for a life of purpose. It is the moment where you choose to synchronize your thoughts with heaven. Consider how alignment changes your responses. A person who is aligned through prayer does not enter a meeting in panic, but in peace. They do not react to opposition with insecurity, but with wisdom. They do not interpret delays as defeat, but as divine redirection. Alignment means your inner posture matches God's perspective, and that makes all the difference. The wilderness and wasteland imagery in Isaiah 43 reminds us that life is not always easy terrain. You will walk through places that feel empty, barren, and directionless. But prayer reminds you that even in the wilderness, God is designing a path. Even in the wasteland, He is creating streams. What looks impossible becomes possible because His presence is involved. And the only way to consistently perceive that is through daily alignment in prayer. Think about a compass. A compass points north, not because of preference, but because of alignment with the magnetic field of the earth. In the same way, your spirit points toward God's promises when you align it in prayer. Without alignment, you drift. With alignment, you stay on course, no matter how confusing the journey looks. Prayer is the compass that points you back to faith, back to hope, and back to trust. Every morning is an invitation to align. When you wake up, you can choose to begin the day in your own strength or to align yourself with the strength of the one who knows the end from the beginning. When you pray Isaiah 43 over your morning, you are not simply asking for help, you are declaring agreement with His vision. You are saying, Lord, I believe that you are doing a new thing in my life. I believe that I will see streams in my dry places. I believe that today holds opportunities for your purpose to unfold. Alignment is the difference between carrying the weight of yesterday and walking in the freedom of today. It is the difference between being consumed by what you see in the natural and being anchored in what God has spoken in the spiritual. It is the difference between living in reaction and living in revelation. That is why morning prayer rooted in Isaiah 43 is so powerful. It ensures that before the voices of doubt, fear, and negativity compete for your attention, you have already anchored yourself in the unshakable voice of God. Isaiah 4:3-19 declares, Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth. Shall you not know it? I will even make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. This verse carries the essence of new beginnings. Every morning is more than the turning of a clock or the rising of the sun. It is an invitation from God to start fresh, to see differently, and to step into possibilities that were not visible the day before. The beauty of a sunrise is not simply in its colors, but in its meaning. A sunrise is heaven's reminder that yesterday's night has ended and a new day has begun. The darkness has passed and light has broken through. That rhythm is built into creation to remind us that no matter how heavy the night has been, it cannot last forever. Morning comes, and with every morning, God whispers, I am doing a new thing. One of the greatest mistakes we can make is to enter a new day carrying the full weight of the old one. We often allow the failures, frustrations, and wounds of yesterday to dictate how we see today. But Isaiah 43 teaches us that God specializes in doing something new. He is not limited by what happened yesterday, nor is He restricted by the mistakes of your past. His mercies are new every morning. That means every sunrise is an opportunity to walk out of regret and into renewal, out of sorrow and into joy, out of defeat and into possibility. When God says, now it shall spring forth, He is describing something alive, something urgent, something that cannot be delayed. A springing forth is sudden, unstoppable, and visible. That is what God's new beginning looks like. It is not hidden forever. It is not postponed indefinitely. It is happening now. The problem is not whether God is doing something. The problem is whether you perceive it. That is why He asks, shall you not know it? The danger is not that God will fail to act. The danger is that we fail to see what He is already doing. Morning prayer is the moment that sharpens your visions. You can perceive what God is springing forth in your life. Without prayer, you might look at your life and see only wilderness. With prayer, you begin to see the way God is carving through it. Without prayer, you may see only deserts and dry places. With prayer, you begin to perceive the streams that are forming. The act of beginning your day with Him ensures that you are tuned to heaven's frequency, sensitive to the new opportunities, new ideas, and new doors that God is opening right in front of you. Think about the imagery of wilderness and rivers. A wilderness is a place of confusion, uncertainty, and lack of direction. A desert is a place of dryness, barrenness, and exhaustion. Many people wake up every morning and feel like their lives mirror these images. They feel lost, drained, and uncertain about the path forward. But God interrupts that picture with His promise, I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. In other words, He does not need favorable conditions to work. He creates paths where none exist. He produces water in places that should be dry. He brings refreshment in spaces that seem barren. This is why new beginnings are not dependent on circumstances, but on God's Word. You may not see how things could change. You may not feel strong enough to start again. But God's promise does not rely on your strength. It relies on His ability to make a way where there is no way. Each morning becomes the place where you declare, Lord, today is a new beginning. Today is not limited by yesterday's wilderness or desert. Today is filled with your streams and your pathways. Isaiah 43:21 continues with God's intention. This people I have formed for myself, they shall declare my praise. In other words, your new beginning is not random, it has a purpose. God renews you not just for your own survival, but for His glory. He creates fresh opportunities, fresh strength, and fresh doors so that your life becomes a testimony of His goodness. Every time you rise in the morning and step into a new beginning, your life declares His praise. It is not just about you. It is about demonstrating His faithfulness through you. This changes how you view your mornings. A new day is not something you take for granted. It is something you embrace as a divine reset. Even if yesterday was filled with failure, today is an opportunity to walk differently. Even if yesterday ended in tears, today is an opportunity for joy to be restored. Even if yesterday felt like a wilderness, today can be the first step on a brand new path. Every sunrise is God's way of saying, I am not finished. My plans for you are still alive. My promises are still true. So when you rise, do not rehearse yesterday's sorrows. Do not replay yesterday's doubts. Instead, begin to perceive the new thing God is springing forth. Look for the way He is opening in your wilderness. Expect the rivers He is forming in your dry places. Recognize that every morning is a sacred invitation to start again, not in your own strength, but in the strength of the one who makes all things new. Every morning is not just a routine moment in time. It is a divine appointment. Isaiah 43 reminds us that each new day is more than the turning of a calendar. It is the unfolding of God's promises. When you wake up, you are reminded that you are redeemed, you are called by name, and you belong to Him. That truth silences fear before it has a chance to speak. When you open your eyes, you carry the assurance that His presence is with you. You are not walking into the day alone. No matter what fires you face, no matter what waters rise around you, you can step forward with confidence, because the one who created the universe has promised to never leave you nor forsake you. That presence is your strength, your anchor, and your peace. And in the quiet of your morning prayer, you align your heart with His. You release the weight of yesterday and embrace the freshness of today. You shift from dwelling on the past to perceiving the new thing God is already doing in your life. Prayer positions you to see rivers in deserts and pathways in wildernesses. It gives you spiritual vision where natural vision only sees impossibility. Then comes the greatest reminder of all. Every sunrise is proof that God is still creating, still restoring, and still writing your story. Every morning is a fresh beginning. No matter how dark the night has been, the dawn announces that your future is not bound by your past. He is making a way for you, and your life is meant to reflect His glory in everything you do. So when you rise each day, do not rise with fear, with regret, or with doubt. Rise with the confidence that you are redeemed. Rise with the assurance that you are never alone. Rise with the clarity that comes from prayerful alignment. And rise with the joy of knowing that every morning carries a new beginning from the God who makes all things new. Have you ever woken up in the morning and felt like yesterday's struggles followed you into today? Maybe you carried the same worries, the same fears, and the same unanswered questions into your new day. Too many people wake up with heavy hearts instead of hopeful spirits. But what if I told you there's a prayer in Isaiah 43 that can change the way you wake up every single morning? What if I told you that your mornings could shift from anxiety to assurance, from pressure to peace, and from fear to faith? That's exactly what we are going to unlock today.